So we went over there and talked to the apartment people because, you know, that's what churches do. We're going to go over there and figure out how we can get into those apartments. And he said, I'd love to help you, and it's a win-win because we just want to start tutoring. Because, you know, my husband was the missions pastor, and I said, we go around the world sharing the gospel, around the world. And less than a mile away from our church is a culture that we don't know at all. And this culture is never going to step foot in a First Baptist church. So when we went over there, he said, I'd like to help you, but he said, you know, it's really not safe here in the winter for your people, and I don't have a place for you, and I'm sorry I can't help you. And it was about that time that Rick said, I'm going to go to a one-day conference here in Houston on how to reach your community. And I said, yeah, I'll go with you. And so we were down there, and like I said, the man mentioned, you want to make a difference in your community, adopt a school. And I said, it won't happen. It just can't happen. Because if you let one church in, you got to let them all in, and then you don't know, and it just won't happen. And then we came back, and a few weeks later, someone from Kids Hope, which is simply another avenue, a ministry contacted us, and I'll never forget, because he sat down with me, and he said, so tell me the problem you have, and what's your solution? That's a great way to start a conversation with somebody. And so he let me go for about 5 minutes with my solution. And then he said, let me tell you about Kids Hope. And I knew right off, I knew that this is what we needed. I went back to my principal, and her question was, how much is this going to cost us? That's always the question from the school. Believe me, that's always the bottom line. How much is this going to cost? And I told her, I said, this is a win-win. You're about to receive the best gift you've ever had because you're going to have the most amazing volunteers coming into your school, and it's going to make a huge difference. And she said, how quick can we get started? That was 8 years ago. And just this last week, I was talking to our principal, and we were talking about next year because I'm going to retire. And she said, please tell me that we're not losing Kids Hope. And she said, I said, well, no, but, you know, maybe this is the time that we need to cut back on how many mentors we have. And she said, oh, no. If I could have 600, one for every kid, I'd take it. So it has taken us 8 years to build that trust, but it has been an amazing time. Kelly, why don't you come on? Kelly was going to tell you the effect that it's had on the school. So we'll kind of go back and forth with this.
Well, I was thinking of this when Kathy...
She's recording.
Oh, okay. Mentioned this. I thought, well, I could speak, you know, from an employee and from a parent. So, several of you have mentioned the building trust and how important the commitment is. And so I just thought that was what came to mind when I was thinking about today. Is I don't know if some of you are aware because you know about education, but it's constantly changing. Okay, at the end of Sconzo's reign, everybody loved him. You know, a new group of district leadership came in, and they brought their people, and they brought their consultants and their curriculum and their way of doing things. And so that, you know, everything trickles down as far as trainings and what we do. And then over the course of those new people being here, many department heads changed. And now we have a new superintendent, as you mentioned, and new assistant superintendents and new department heads, and so there has been a lot of change, but that's maybe not to that extreme in all cases, but that's kind of how it is. And so teachers tend to be, I don't want to say cynical in a negative way, but I'll say cynical, like they don't expect anything to last. They really don't. And it's kind of a joke when we have trainings. You know, the older teachers will say, oh, we did this 20 years ago, we're doing this again, or let's see how long this lasts, or, you know, whose idea was this? So there's that kind of attitude. So at the beginning, there was just a real attitude in the building of, okay, let's see how long they last, really, because they just don't expect things to last, or people to last, or relationships to last. Because we've also, you know, we've had partners get mad at us and not partner with us anymore over, you know, some kind of red tape that we have no control over as far as donations or things like that. So over the years, it has been so interesting to see the shift in the teachers' attitudes towards Kids Hope. And even the kids, like, who are these people? Well, now all the kids know who they are. And so that's really been that commitment. Establishing that relationship and that trust has been, I would say, the biggest impact on our campus. Somebody that's, like, stood the test of time in a way. And then as a parent, I went through a divorce. I guess my son was in kinder at the time. And it was a mess. It was a mess. His behavior was a mess, and I was a mess. I couldn't help him. And I remember third grade, because that was when we could start, telling Kathy, man, my kid needs a mentor. And she's like, okay. His dad was not happy about that because he felt like no other man should be helping his kid. So I listened to him. He didn't have a mentor that year, and he was really disappointed because he really wanted one. Because for some of the kids, too, it's like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like it's... like all the kids want a mentor. They
want a mentor, but for a lot of the kids, they're the ones that are either overlooked or the ones that are in trouble all the time. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden, now they've got something special. Mm-hmm. So it was huge.
So fourth grade, he still had some emotional, problems in third grade. So fourth grade, I just ignored his dad, no offense, but we got him a mentor, and Dad didn't like it, but it didn't matter. Wiley was really happy, and it was Mr. Tim, who was fabulous, and he was very gracious to my son and explaining what his role was. Like, I'm not here to take your dad's place, and we're going to be partners together. And I'm sure my son went home and told his dad, so it was all okay. But he was very gracious in establishing that relationship with my kid. And then I just thought, oh gosh, what is he hearing about my home, about our home life or our family or whatever? So it was a little bit nerve-wracking as a parent, but I was like, it is what it is. Let him have somebody to talk to, because my family's all in Florida. And, there's not a lot of men in his life, so I was thrilled for he could have, another man to see once a week. And so this year he has Mr. Xavier, and he's a pilot, so he comes and goes whenever, but he's so excited. He's so happy. And Mr. Xavier talks about his travels. And, they've just had a great bond this year. So that's been really good for him. And now, he's able to control his emotions better. And who knows what they talk about. But I just say, okay, God, that's all on them, that part. So,
okay, I'll take it back.
Okay.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. I was trying to think. I made my list because I was going to tell you how it spreads and what happens. We started, I thought, if we had 20 mentors, Kids Hope told me, and again, I can only talk to you from Kids Hope point of view because that's the program that we got started with. But I thought at the time, if we had 20, they said that would be good. And I went to the training, school had just started, so I went to the training in September and came back and stood in front of our church. And they said, well, hopefully you can get it started by January. And I said, oh, no. We needed this in August. So no, we can't wait till January. And so by the 1st of November, we got started. And our first year, we had 30. And the next year, we had 50. And so we said, we need to adopt another school. And it's always been like that from the beginning. Because I'm on campus at my school 4 days a week, we have had 50 mentors there for the last probably 4 to 5 years. 50 people. Now, I'm going to tell you that it changed the culture of our school, but I'm going to tell you it's changed the culture of our church. Okay? It works both ways. The benefits are amazing. But this last year, we adopted 2 more elementary schools in the Aldine. And then the other one that has been such a blessing to us is Kids Hope has a program for middle school. And so 2 years ago, we started in Ross Sterling Middle School. And as far as I know, we're the only middle school. I don't know. There may be another church involved with, or Kids Hope program in the middle school here. But this one was a huge one. They were so excited to have us on their campus. And so actually our 5th grade mentors have the opportunity to move up to the middle school. We don't start new relationships there. We just move up with them. And there are some of our kids that we laughingly say, you're going to be with him till he walks across the stage and graduates. I mean, this kid is not going to leave you. And I don't know how that looks for high school. So we're about to get close to that point, though. But let me just tell you real quickly some of the things. Xavier, the pilot that mentors her son, he is a part of an organization called Professionals and Pilots, and it's minority groups that are in careers that come to schools. So that was an avenue that opened up for us. And he came and shared. We had a Vietnamese engineer from the space program. We had just different, and we have lots and lots of minorities here in Houston. I'll tell you that real quick. But anyway, but there was one little girl that listened to him, and she's Hispanic. And Xavier said every time I would go to pick up my kid, Dulce would have another question for me about flying. And he said, I figured out this little girl is really hungry, so I would give her an assignment. And every week I'd come back and she'd have this assignment done. And she'd have another question. And he made arrangements, connected with her family, made arrangements to meet them at a small area airport, and Dulce got to fly. And she came back with all of her pictures and showing me that she got to be in the airplane. This is a little Hispanic girl that this would have never happened for. Well, not only did he do that, but a couple of months later, he made arrangements for Dulce to meet a female Hispanic pilot that flies for Southwest. And so the connections that you make with these kids opens up doors that you just can't even imagine. We now have a program for kindergarten and first grade. We opened it up to our senior adults to just come and read for 30 minutes to a kindergartner or first grader. Remember the words that they don't have by the time they're 3 years old? We call it Kids Connect. And so they just simply come, they call their child up, and that little kindergartner or first grader comes up and reads with Miss Ann or whoever for 30 minutes every week. So now you get to multiply. You're thinking, wow, that's getting close to 100 people a week that's stepping into this school to make a difference for these kids. And it's working. So I can tell you wholeheartedly, you want to make a difference in your community, adopt a school. Yes?
Yeah, I want to encourage the smaller churches too, though, because I've thought,
oh, yes.
If every church just sent one, I mean, that would be more than what you had before. So, I mean, because I come from a small church.
Yes.
But if they could just get one person to go over there consistently and just keep that going, you could make that difference in that one child's life at least.
Oh, yeah. And then you'll come back and talk. That one will come back and talk about it. That's my best recruiting for mentors, is the ones that go every week and come back. Let me just tell you another, as far as school culture thing. I actually took a group of teachers last year to Guatemala to do a mission trip. Something I always wanted to do, and I just said, hey, would you want to go down there and help a school? We have bilingual teachers. I don't speak any Spanish, no Espanol. But I made them take me anyway. And so we went down there, and we're returning again. And that all came about because of Kids Hope and because of having people in our school. So, I tell people 8 years ago I never dreamed we'd be doing what we're doing now. And the other two schools only have 10. We started off with them last year, so they have 10 mentors in each school. That will double this year. It isn't hard for me to get people, because they see the results. We see these kids in church. We see them going to camp. We see them in Vacation Bible School. And they didn't know this church. And now you talk about sharing your faith. We don't have to say it at all. Okay? These kids know where everybody comes from. You'll hear them saying, hey, are you going to church Wednesday night? Or, you hear it in the hallway. And they'll ask me questions all the time about God or about church or whatever. But the trust is there among our staff now, so they know we're not going to overstep our bounds. They know that. So it's just a
lot of our kids come on Wednesdays for tutoring, study buddies.
Study buddies. That was another program we started out of that, was study buddies. And on Wednesday night we have a place up here for them to come and eat, and then they go to Awana and they go through the whole night. So.
And just other things that our mentors do for us. They volunteer at the carnival. One year, we decided to do it in the fall. We didn't think about how soon the sun would go down, but one of the mentors' husbands brought lights. And, they did cakes for the cakewalk, so we could actually make some money. And last week, they provided a dessert bar for the staff meeting where we were working on creating a new vision for our campus. And so they are always doing little treats. You know, they'll bring volunteer groups when they do Humble to Humble mission days. The youth will come over. They painted new lines on all the basketball courts. Or they're working in the gardens, and there's so many areas they're involved in, as well as the mentoring too.
And you know, when Harvey hit, we came together. It was a community. They were up here. They were up here pulling carpet out of our building. They were up here. Teachers, a group of teachers. That was probably the hardest one when I saw volunteers coming in from my school, and they said, no, you come to our school. We're coming up here to help you guys. And they were in there pulling that wet carpet out and doing stuff up here at the church. So it is truly, over the years, we have become community. We have become community.